The Utility Board public meeting for July 19th, 2022 is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jim.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan. Here. Richard Sharp.
Here.
I am present. Chris Gladys.
Present.
David Austin.
Present.
New business, approval of the minutes from the June 21st, 2022 meeting. Do we have a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes?
I will make a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes.
Motion by Colleen,
I'll second.
second by Julie. Roll call.
Question.
Question.
I got that draft minutes from you. Is that the town council draft or the utility?
Utility board was sent last night. Town council was sent this morning.
All right, and the town council one, you got John Foreman and me absent,
Oh.
but we both voted on everything.
That's a neat trick, Bob.
So
we should bring that up at the next meeting. Make that a note, make that a note at the...
State board might be interested in that.
We go, Rick.
Roll call.
figment of their imagination.
Yes, they are a big minute of their
But we
imagination.
voted on everything.
Robert Carnahan.
Here. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
I was gonna vote present like Bob, but I'll vote yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Motion carried 7-0. Written report, the first report, the fund report from our clerk treasurer.
Sorry, now it's bugging me and I want to look at the minutes. The reports, the cash expenditure, were sent to you previously. At this time, I really don't have anything new. We're working on the very many projects we have going on and making sure our schedules are all updated as well as moving forward on the 23 budget.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Question. Have you been working with Sue? And I know that utility budgets don't have the deadline, but are we putting together a template for utility budgets for next year?
So that has been the goal since last year, and every
It's actually been
time,
the goal for about 3 years now.
I'm just saying, Sue and I really started to kind of nail it down last year. We were talking about starting with the water utilities, and we're under the jurisdiction of the IURC. We figured that would be a good place to start, especially since we have to do the annual report. That way we could get everything all divvied out accordingly. But every time we've gone to move forward on that project, we've moved forward with another project that is slightly more important.
Well, I will speak with Sue at some point here in the near future and encourage her to continue her work on getting to the point where we have a manageable template, because we need to start building a little more of a professional utility business model. And it starts at the utility board and the management of the budget by our staff. So,
We're all in agreement. Chris and I were actually just talking the other day, because I told Chris that originally the idea was for us to start with the water utility, but then Chris suggested maybe we start with the storm utility.
storm utility needs
Yes,
attention.
it does.
Yes.
We have that meeting scheduled August 4th.
Yeah. I believe
Very
Sue
good.
will be up here in
Time is that
person,
meeting?
so that we can really start
3
hammering
o'clock.
things down.
It's during working hours.
Yeah, you can come to a party after that meeting.
You're
I believe
acutely
Sue
aware.
will be here late afternoon.
Beautiful.
Okay, that'll be fun. We'll have a good time then. Thank you, Jennifer.
Will.
Randy, anything? Is that?
That was the question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Is that it, Jen?
Yes,
Okay.
just if I could go back to Bob's point real
Yes,
fast. It
real
is
quick.
just under the roll call section.
Okay.
And I will make that adjustment to page 1 of the town council minutes.
Thank you so much. Number 3, consultant report from our engineer, Lease Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 1 for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Update, Project 1. Work has started. Pipe has been delivered to the contractor. There has been a delay in the next delivery, which I discussed with Chris today, and that was a manufacturing molding issue from the manufacturer for the pipe that we have for Project 1, and we're waiting for updates on that, but they have begun work. Project 2, design's proceeding, and we're coordinating with the town attorney regarding the acquisition for the parcels, and once those are completed, we will submit our item facilities construction permit and maintain progress on that. Item 3, the East Side Sanitary Sewer Inspection. The work is completed, and right now we're reviewing with staff the post-construction videos, and then we will prepare the final pay request with staff, with Chris and Tony, to close out that project. The SSES update. Chris and I reviewed with a developer the meter data that was collected through January of 2022. We did notice some high peak flows, and we're working with the guys at Public Works, Tony and Kyle, with their assistance for reducing those, and they've also set additional meters that we had discussed at the last meeting, moved a couple locations to start isolating the upstream areas, and that data collection is proceeding.
What was the ES in the acronym?
The SSES, the Sanitary Sewer Evaluation Survey.
Evaluation, okay. Thank you.
And there's a lot of acronyms in the EPA and the IDEM and the government, and
Yeah, it takes a dozen years to understand all this stuff.
oh, there's a book about this big if you want it.
And they say you should never use acronyms. You should say what it is in a public meeting, because the audience doesn't understand what you're talking about either.
Listen, neither do people like me sitting up here. My first year in the council, I think Ian spoke in pure acronyms.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here like, what the hell is he talking about?
UCC, IURC, FSCS,
SBOA.
Thank you, Nelson.
Question?
Yes.
Water tower, where are we at?
For the elevated tank, the shop drawings have been submitted. They are being reviewed by Dixon Engineering, who is the consultant for the steel and the erection portion of that, and coatings. And then the foundation has been submitted as well for the shop drawings, and AES is reviewing those. And Chris and I just this week got the color card selection for the shop drawings for the selection of the color of the tower. And I think the general consensus, but I'll defer to Chris, is to match the towers between the east side and the west side in terms of color. And then the logo will be painted on there as well, the one directly behind it.
Water main, Utopia.
The contractor has ordered the materials. They actually ordered them the day of the award of that contract on February 18th, well, just after that, following the bid opening, and they are waiting for material to be delivered. He said between August 10th and Labor Day, material will be on the way.
And once the material is there, what's the timeline for the startup and then the construction of that?
They anticipate beginning within a week or two of material delivery. We still need to schedule a pre-construction meeting with the contractor. However, they do have all of their contracts, bonds, notices of insurance, certificates of insurance, and everything in order regarding the paperwork for that project.
So I don't know if I heard, what is the estimated time that water tower is going to be standing and functional?
You know what would be good, actually, Randy? Is if you could put together, I don't want a Gantt chart showing details, you don't need to spend hours and hours showing resources and man hours, but it would be nice to have these are our projects and these are our goals that we think we're at today. So that way we can at least speak intelligently when people ask these questions, because it's brutal making stuff up. And we all seven are going to say something different. So this way we're at least looking at a schedule that we think is somewhat ballpark realistic, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That would be super helpful, Chris, if you could do that.
Yeah, if you want to answer Randy's
And we're gonna
question.
put it to 5, we're gonna have water towers number 5 on the update.
That'd be good.
If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
I ask them every meeting.
Yeah.
And that was something Chris and I had talked with Margaret about at the last staff level utility committee meeting, was consolidating some of these items, removing some that are completed, and then adding future items. But yeah, as John said, I can get you a schedule for all the projects by the end of the week and send them out to all the council members, utility board members, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, and I think for the public's sake, knowing when that tower will be up and functional, not just for the neighbors there in Crystal Oaks, but for the developers that are chomping at the bit right now to get going on.
Proceed with annexations and their development.
We've got to move a water main yet, we've got to build a tower, so putting together some kind of timeline that we're following here so we know where we're at on the progress of this, because right now it feels like we're nowhere.
Just so we have it.
Absolutely, I will take care of that.
Yeah.
So what's the estimated time when the water tower's gonna go up?
Where they're projecting right now, following shop drawing review, they'll do a site review of the fabrication facility. They'll begin actual work in September, and then the erection of the tower, the welding, those inspections that are part of Dixon's work. I believe March of 2023 is when they have that for completion for operation.
March 2023.
Yeah, and I will confirm that
That
with
means we
the
also
schedule.
need to start moving some pipe here pretty soon.
Absolutely correct. And upgrades to the Paradise Cove facility. And we don't have the reports yet, but there were updates from Orban regarding the well tests for those two wells that are at Paradise Cove, and they were incredibly productive.
Dave, did you?
Yeah, just a point, and Plan Commission members who are here would note this. At the Plan Commission meeting, Jack Slager from Schilling came in and asked for a year's extension of time on the next phase of the Lakeside project because of the time involved still with our construction, our water main extension, and our tower. So everybody's looking at this like it's a year out.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Director of Operations, Mr. Cunha.
We got our couple of water main issues taken care of in Utopia that we're on 137th and Parish. Those are rerouted and tapped onto the main where they're supposed to be, and those people have good supplies to their house now. We did have water main break in Utopia. One of the old lines that were in there, which was in a terrible place, which was quite
I was inconvenienced by that, by the way.
It was not, there was a lot of inconvenience by it, but it was in a terrible place. I had to cut down
Couldn't wash my
trees.
hands before I ate it.
Wow, it was a rough customer, but unfortunately that happened now, right before it's going to be
Like I
changed,
haven't
but.
eaten.
Yeah, that's all right. Couldn't have just
It is what it is.
Well, we're a year late.
Yep, the new pumps are installed in Havenwood and Drives, and that's all up and going. We're working on getting a game plan together to get the drives and pumps ordered for the Parish pump station now and get the electric upgraded, so we're gonna be ready to go with that as soon as the demand of the water lightens up a little bit and we can shut it down for a couple weeks to get that done, so. Everything's moving forward well. We're still waiting on parts for lift station 8 by Corky's over there to come in. We're still running on bypass. That pump that we did buy a couple years ago is godsend. It's been doing a great job, and it starts and runs, and it's quiet, and it keeps everybody happy, and it's a good trick, so. That's all I have for now.
Any questions for Tim? Thank you, Tim. County Attorney, David?
No reports tonight.
Thank you. JMOB report, do we have anything, Chris? Nothing, okay, that's report.
Question on that. We did have a meeting with the Lake Dale Sanitary Sewer District. Did we get minutes of that meeting?
Yeah, we received draft minutes from that meeting.
Okay, so maybe for the next utility board meeting, we need to circulate those and give a report on that meeting.
We could circulate those, and I believe we probably also need to circulate last year's for approval.
Oh, okay.
How many homes are on that?
Lake Dale?
Yeah, 200?
I don't know exactly the number of homes there. They're a pretty tight-knit community, though, I'll say that. Great place, I really love it.
They're gonna add, 85 homes, but it's not gonna be in our system.
No, it's gonna be on there.
Be on there. They have their own independent system, too.
Thank you, Chris. Public comment, any public comment? Public comment, anything, Jennifer?
Nobody online?
Seeing no public comment, this meeting is adjourned. Next
Meeting is called to order. This is town council public meeting for July 19, 2022. We'll start with pledge of allegiance. The moment of silence. Mr. Austin,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dave, please keep in your prayers and thoughts Attorney Mark Ady. He's an attorney at Barnes & Thornburg who worked with us through some very difficult times with our funding and financing and bond issues and the like. He passed away recently at a young age.
thank you. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Here.
John Foreman?
Present.
Julie Rivera? Here. Ralph Miller?
Present.
Colleen Sheehan? Here. Richard Sharp?
Here.
Randy Niemeyer?
Present.
I'm present. Chris Gladys?
Present.
David Austin?
Present.
We have a quorum established for public comment on agenda items. Second call.
Good evening.
Hi, Tim.
Tim Brown, 14702 Klein Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. I'd like to comment on your ordinance of resolution items number 1, ordinance number 1423, ward redistricting. I think it's great that you're doing a 5 and 2. I proposed that, and Dave knows this, years ago, and we thought it was a really good thing to do. So I'm in favor of doing that. And I don't really come to these meetings. I mean, you guys are running the town. I was here at the time running the town. I mean, I've been done with that for a long time. But my biggest key about this is the way I proposed it was, you have 2 at-large that really, truly run at-large. And the rest of them run per their ward, per their district. You still got to live in the district, like you always had to. I mean, that totally makes sense. But if you're going to keep all 7 running at large, it kind of defeats the purpose of doing the 5 and 2 in the first place. Now, granted, we have to make comments ahead of the agenda, and maybe you guys have an answer to that, I don't know. But what I've heard, and, you know, everybody calls or texts or whatever, I've heard that you're going to keep everybody at large, but I think it's not the right way to do it. If you're going to really do a 5 and 2, the 5 and 2 should be 2 at large, voted at large throughout the whole town, and the 5 are voted for the districts that they represent where they live.
I disagree with you, Tim, because I get complaints from people all over this town, and I don't want them to be hindered in not having me to help them out.
If you're the at-large person, the answer is yes. But if you're the ward person, it should be your responsibility for who you represent in your ward to do exactly that. If it's in your ward. If you're not in that ward, you send it to the council person that's in that ward first, and then as an at-large person, you handle it. That's the way it's supposed to be designed.
I disagree with you.
The individual ward member that represents that ward is the first contact person. And then it goes beyond that. And that's the way I designed it when I proposed it many years ago. And that, I think, works better.
And we never
because it has a better layer. Otherwise, you're going to have at-large people stepping over the bounds of the ward they represent, and that's wrong. And that's the original argument I had a number of years ago. You were there. You remember this.
That's your opinion, is it?
I get it. But that's the only thing I had to say.
Yeah, there's a couple options legally with that. You can go with what is being proposed in the ordinance of everybody being voted on at large, but the ward representatives, of course, will have to be from the ward. The at-large, somebody from anywhere in the community can run against another person.
Exactly.
So that's the advantage of that. I understand what you're saying, too.
It's the layering is what I like about it.
Right. Hey, there's a couple different ways to look at it and still do it legally.
Yeah,
so.
And that's up to you guys to do that. But I always thought it was better. I mean, you have a town manager, and that's who your administrative guy does all the stuff. That's what I used to do. But then you have a double layer. So that a citizen jumping to somebody at large to avoid their ward representative is wrong. They should go to their ward representative first. And if the solution isn't there, then you go to the at-large person. That's the way it's supposed to be designed for that. But it's ultimately you guys' decision.
Yeah, the state does leave it in the law up to the discretion of.
I know. I get that. That's the same argument we had 20 years ago.
I'm sure you heard both sides of it.
I did, back then too. From Bob too. I get it, same argument, it's just different time. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Did he have a Carnahan hat on back then?
No. Any other public comment on agenda items?
No.
Kevin told 975B West 120. I just want to say that I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Brown, and I think that it should be ward elections for the 5 wards and the 2 at large. That way, the representation, in my opinion, also is the ward guys represent your wards, and then the 2 at larges are basically like the tiebreakers and stuff, so that if there are conflicts or there are maybe something's not good for that side of town, maybe this side of town, they think they need something different. That's where you have the wards represent themselves, and then the at-large guys would be those tiebreakers in those cases. Instead of everybody being voted on at large, then what do you have wards for? And just have 7 at large.
The one disadvantage I can see.
The state won't let us do that.
The one disadvantage I can see to just ward-only elections, and I'm not saying I disagree with you, but the disadvantage would be is creating this system like we see in other governments in Lake County and maybe even county government where the wards become people's kingdoms. And that can be a tendency of that type of system where people develop their little kingdoms, and that's not a great government either. So there's negatives to that.
But you can also say when everybody's at large, those at larges become their own kingdom because they can be governed by, they can be controlled by everybody in the town or by certain groups in the town. So they're going to run everybody at large, right? Because it is an at large vote. Your ward should represent your ward. That represents what your needs and your section.
You live in the ward that you run in, except that at large, somebody from the west side could be running against somebody from the east side. That's the difference with it.
Just my opinion.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Any other items? Okay, thank you. Anything online? All right. I always forget we gotta go to that. Public comments closed. We have our consent agenda, minutes of the June 21st, 2022 meeting. Jen, note for the record that Mr. Carnahan and Mr. Foreman were both present. They were marked absent on the roll call. Is that correct?
Yep, page 1 will be updated.
Thank you. Claims, all town funds, $371,424.92. Wastewater operating, $47,099.30. Water utility, $420,065.18. Stormwater, $99,387.01. Payroll, $329,864.17. And June remittances of $178,579.23. We have manual journal entries, June 1, 2022 through June 30, 2022. Donations, the DARE donations, Hanover Central Middle School, $1,000. American Legion Post 261, $100. JFLA Management Company, LLC, $250. White's Custom Concrete, $250. And Jerry Smith, $1,270. Motion to accept and waive the reading of minutes. Accept the consent agenda as listed with the amendment to the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion?
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Engmeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Ordinances and resolutions. Item number 1 is ordinance 1423, ward redistricting. Mr. Sharp, the introductory reading, please.
Ordinance number 1423, an ordinance amending town ordinance number 1168, being an ordinance amending town ordinance number 834, being an ordinance ratifying town ordinance number 810, being an ordinance amending the town code pertaining to the legal descriptions of ward boundary districts in the town of Cedar Lake, and repealing all town code sections and ordinance of parts thereof in conflict herewith, and repealing all town code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, repealing all town code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto. And
It sounds like you just repeated.
I know, three times.
You gotta love legal.
So thank you, that's the introductory ordinance. Before we go to any kind of voting, we'll have a presentation. I just wanted to say to the audience, this is part of our statutory duty every 10 years with the decennial census, is to undertake this effort of trying to balance things out as best we can. The state has really tightened up the statute a lot over from the last time that we did this, and created some very narrow boundaries for us to work within. I think it's probably cleaned up the process to prevent some of the malfeasance that would take place in the past. So we hired Veritas Group here to help us with this process and really lead this process, because none of us are experts in balancing census blocks and doing all of that type of work. And also, it was recommended to us at the AIM conference this past year that we hire a third-party consultant, because many times when elected bodies try to do this on their own, you can find yourself in a legal challenge that's very difficult to defend. So with going through this process and having a third party doing this independently, this gave us the opportunity to keep a little distance, allow professionals to do what they do, and ultimately present this tonight for its introduction consideration. So with that, I'll turn it over to Elena Schontweiler with Veritas Group. And Jack is also here he was the map expert, so he can help explain some things if there's some questions. So go ahead, Elena.
You just took my whole first slide, so.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. For the benefit of the audience, redistricting is statutorily required by the state of Indiana after every decennial census, within 2 years of that decennial census, allowing communities to better balance the district board due to population growth in this case, but sometimes in the case of population decline. In 2010, the U.S. Census recorded the population of Cedar Lake as 11,560 people. And the town has experienced significant growth with a recorded 2020 census of 14,106. Actually, they also have an estimate as of as of July 1st, 2021, and within that year, you guys have already experienced a 4.6% growth to 14,693.
One comment there.
Yeah.
We don't get any money for that.
No, you don't. Not until the next decennial census, so unless you want to pay for a special census, which other communities have done. Public law enacted by Congress does require the Census Bureau to provide states an opportunity to identify some small area geography for which they need the data, and that's why Jack Woods is here, because he's my data guy. As you can see on the boards to the left of the room, the current redistricting, or the current districts with the current population as of the 2020 census, there's a significant imbalance with these district populations. And you'll see the total deviation of 63%. Statutorily, you're required to keep that at under total deviation of 10%. And as you desire to and per the Indiana Code, redistrict, we do have to keep it compact, contiguous, contain equal population as possible within the 10% deviation, respect precinct boundary lines, and comply with the requirements prohibiting discrimination and respect communities of interest, like a historical district, so that they wouldn't be split. With these guidelines in place, the town contracted Veritas Group to provide redistricting scenarios that comply with the state statutes and keep the town in compliance with the state. And I'm going to hand it over to Jack Woods to go over the redistricting objectives and the map.
Sure. Thanks, Elena. As Elena said, my name is Jack Woods, also with the Veritas Group. I think really quickly, Elena has highlighted a bit of this, and Randy, you've covered some of this too, but as we started out redrawing the wards within the town of Cedar Lake, we had to keep 6 things in mind. One, we had to make sure that we're being as compact as possible with each ward. Also ensuring contiguity so that each of these wards is contiguous and you don't have an island of one in the middle of another. Also equal population. This is probably the most important out of all of these objectives, but ensuring that there is as equal as possible population in each one of these wards to ensure that it's one resident, one vote, equal representation. We're also required to respect precinct boundaries, so the voting precincts. You are allowed to cross those. There are two reasons you can cross them. One, if the census block itself follows a precinct line, you can split a census block and follow the precinct there. But you can also split precinct boundaries to balance population. And so that's what we've done in most cases when you look at this new updated ward map that we're showing today. It does a pretty good job of following precinct boundaries, but there were a couple times where we had to jump over them just to balance each ward as best possible. And then the last two here comply with requirements prohibiting discrimination. We can't draw boundaries to disadvantage one political group or race of people. And then also the final thing here, kind of in line with that, respect communities of interest. So that comes after all the other five, but let's say there's a neighborhood, you can give some discretion to keeping neighborhoods together as long as you're not inhibiting any of those other five objectives that I just talked about. So the word that we've also been throwing around here a little bit is total deviation, and I'd just like to cover quickly how that's calculated. Elena noted, if you look at the total deviation of the current ward map, which is the one on the far left, it's at 63%. So we calculate that by taking the ideal population of each ward. So if you have 7, the town of Cedar Lake's population, 14,106, divide that by 7, then you get our ideal number of 2,015. And if you look at that chart over there, you can see that we're pretty unbalanced between all of our wards there. There's a few that come close. And to get this total deviation number, we take the ward that has the greatest amount over that ideal population, the percentage that is over, and then the ward that has the least amount under our ideal population, take that percentage and combine them together.
The thing is, I think the people that moved here found out that I live in Ward 5, and they wanted to live close to me. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, you appear to be a popular guy.
Right.
So using that math and then rebalancing the districts, you can take a look at the map in the middle and then also the chart on the right-hand side, and we now have a total deviation with this 5-ward option of 7.4%. So below that threshold that Elena mentioned of 10%, which if you go over that, you risk lawsuits, then the burden of proof is on you to prove that why it's not unbalanced. So we've created an option that does well there. So we presented a few scenarios to you. I've worked gotten feedback from town council and town staff, and this is the 5-word version that we've settled on today. And you've read the ordinance and hopefully move forward. Do you want to add anything, Elena?
Yeah. We did reach out to the Lake County Board of Elections as well to kind of go over their interpretation of the statute. And you are allowed to stay at 7 as you are, but in those scenarios, it caused an increased disruption in the electoral process for your community, and it was the most difficult to balance all of you, all of your districts, all of the wards, and keep that population balance as close as we could. So it skewed the deviation to really close, dangerously close, in my opinion, to that 10%, because you're going to continue to grow. We're seeing that already in that 1 year from the census. Also, in that statute, you are allowed to go to a 5-ward with 2 at-large and keep your 7 members, which truly caused the least amount of disruption to the electoral process. And we did, as we looked at the interpretation from the Lake County Electoral Board, and then talked to other resident experts in the redistricting process, they recommended an electoral, the different ward election process with wards 1, 2, I think it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 being in one election.
Well, actually, it'd be wards 1, 2, and 3 in one election, and 2 at large, and 4 and 5 in the other election.
There we go. So
And that does balance and causes the least amount of disruption for your community members, and allows you to remain at large. And as I think the citizen that spoke earlier, it is to your discretion, remaining at large in the vote. That is not something that they dictate in any way from the state statute, so this is to your discretion. So if you guys have any questions about the
Just
data.
for the record, so currently this year, because this can create confusion, we have wards 1, 3, and 5 up for reelection.
Yes.
That does not change, okay? Once the calendar changes to January 1, if this ordinance is adopted as it's currently sitting, those wards will change to wards 1, 2, and 3. So next year's election would be the new wards 4 and 5, plus the 2 at large.
Yes.
That's how it would work.
Yes.
So there would be no disenfranchisement of anybody. The 3 and 4 split as far as between the congressional and municipal elections would still maintain. The clerk treasurer still runs in the municipal election. So all it is just a renumbering of things,
Yes.
a shuffling a little bit, and like I said, very non-disruptive to the process.
Yes. There are two things to note as you're making a transition. Should there be a vacancy on council prior to the adopting or the revision of the voting ordinance, the previously adopted ordinance establishing the districts remains in effect for the purpose of filling the vacancy until the expiration of that term. That's in the state statute. And then that's one thing. It also, with the maps versus a legal description of the ward, the legal description supersedes the map, the visual, so.
So for example, Bob would still be the Ward 1 representative. He doesn't have competition, so he will still be Ward 1. Ward 2 would either be Julie or Dana Plant. They're both running for Ward 3 this year, but that will change to Ward 2 next year. And then Ward 3 would be Nick Recupero. Nick does not have any competition either in the fall, so that's just how it would change.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Any questions for Elena? Jack, questions?
No, thanks for putting everything together like you did.
Elena, one question quick. We've got more of a process to undertake here, correct? So explain to us after tonight, if this introduction is passed as it was read and described, what's the next step?
So the next step would be the public hearing and a final adoption of the ordinance. So that can happen simultaneously in your next council meeting. So you can open up a public hearing, close public hearing, and if there's no changes, no adjustments needed, then a final adoption with the final ordinance and the legal description all in that packet. Then once that is finally adopted by Cedar Lake, we submit that ordinance to the Lake County Board of Elections. They make the necessary adjustments on their end as well, and that goes into county GIS. We have all the GIS files as well, so there's all of that information is already completed for them.
Are there any other additional transparency steps that we need to take within the statute as part of this?
No, that's it.
So we can't pass this on to
This
ordinance?
is just the introduction tonight, and then there'll be a public hearing. What's the timeline on that public hearing? 30 days?
No, it can be at the next council meeting, so 2 weeks. It just has to be noticed to the public.
Okay.
Held open, statutorily what you hold open for your typical public hearing.
Dave, questions?
No, it's my understanding statute doesn't require a notice public hearing, but a public forum in a public meeting, so that the citizenry and our residents have an opportunity to comment and input. So we'll make that clear though, before probably the end of business tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, let's get that straight so we're doing it right.
No question. We are waiting on the final legal descriptions themselves. They're in the process.
Okay.
That will match these items and show the boundaries. The color coding is right, but the details in the legal, and I agree, the legal description text supersedes legal description
The
color.
map visual.
So would this be considered an introductory reading or a first reading?
It's an introductory reading.
Then at the next meeting, we could potentially, if it is adopted unanimously, have a two-reading
Good.
adoption, if the rules are suspended. Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for your work on this. I wouldn't have wanted to try and chop this thing up. No, one thing is I think when elected bodies get involved in that process, that it can become pretty negative for the community because people start to point fingers at influence that people may have over the process. So I'm glad that you guys jumped on board and were able to help us with this because none of us wanted to touch this hot potato.
Understand. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Safe trip home.
Thanks.
Who's driving?
I guess I am.
You'll have a safe trip home.
She's,
I'm in
It's gonna take them longer.
It is gonna take them longer
did
than
you have
that.
any police escort on the way up, Elena?
No. Apparently I have a secret handshake that I didn't know
Okay.
about. Police life. I'm like,
Okay.
there's no secret handshake.
Well, thank you again for your work on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we've heard the introductory reading of ordinance 1423 as well as the presentation and questions. Noting the public comment as well to the record. Is there a motion by the council to approve the introductory reading of ordinance 1423?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second? Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion?
Yes, that includes all at large, all voting at large.
That's in the ordinance.
Okay.
Yep.
Wanted that clarified.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We will have our next ordinance action on this at the next town council meeting. Ordinance number 1424 is water tariff ordinance. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Ordinance number 1424, an ordinance adopting legislation recently promulgated by the Indiana General Assembly eliminating the utility receipts tax for water rates imposed upon the town municipal water utility ratepayers, amending the rates and charges collected by the town of Cedar Lake Municipal Water Utility from its ratepayers for utility receipts and taxes imposed upon those rates, and also for system-wide rates and charges as well as system development charges as approved and ordered by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission upon petition application by the town for same and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of ordinance 1424, first reading by Mr. Sharp. Is there a motion by the council to approve the first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion?
Yes. Could we have an explanation for the audience?
I was going to go to that.
All right.
Chris or Dave, who wants to take it?
I'm gonna give this one to Dave.
This is part of the continuing saga with the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Some of this saga commenced in January of 2021, related to the system development charge rates that the town sought uniformity with and compliance with previous orders of the commission when we were before them on general rates and charges. They insisted that we come back on further proceedings once we got some items accomplished. Well, that took 18 months, but we got to it by May 25th of this year. Contemporaneously with those system development charge rates being updated, if you will, and subject of new tariffs, the General Assembly, in its wisdom, and knowing funding excesses down in Indianapolis existed, adopted law that eliminated the utility receipts tax. Utility receipts tax was just an appendage to our ratepayers, something we had to collect and something that had to be paid. Now it's gone bye-bye by the ordinance that's before you, if adopted. So we're kind of cleaning up our rates. We're adopting the tariffs that have been approved, and we're clearing out the utility receipt tax.
And we don't have much of a choice but to adopt it per the state legislature.
But I've enjoyed the explanation.
Would you also explain about us being in the Indiana Regulatory Commission and we tried to get out of that?
I can explain this very simple. It's cost us about $500,000 to get here with all the bureaucratic wrangling that goes on with the Utility Regulatory Commission.
So the ratepayers had to pay that.
Yeah, just to manage our utility and do the things that need to be done for the business model. It's been probably north of $500,000 now in excess dollars that would not have to have been spent had we not been a member of that. So I would question whether or not the IURC is in the best interest of the ratepayers. We had the first reading of ordinance 1424. In explanation, is there a motion? We already have a motion and second. John made the motion, Ralph the second for approval of the first reading. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules and re-vote on ordinance 1424, water tariff ordinance.
Motion to suspend by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven? Yes. Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sharp, second reading by its title only, ordinance 1424.
Ordinance number 1424, an ordinance adopting legislation recently promulgated by the Indiana General Assembly eliminating the utility receipts tax for water rates imposed upon town municipal water utility ratepayers, amending the rates and charges collected by the town Cedar Lake Municipal Water Utility from its ratepayers for utility receipts and taxes imposed upon those rates, and also for system-wide rates and charges as well as system development charges as approved and ordered by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, IURC, upon petition application by the town for same and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. The second reading of ordinance 1424. Is there a motion to adopt?
I make the motion to adopt.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Sheehan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Ross?
please note that if adopted, the ordinance, it has an effective date of July 1st for billing purposes.
Thank you.
So that billing cycle's clean.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 3 is ordinance 1426, introductory annexation ordinance. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Ordinance number 1426, an ordinance annexing certain contiguous land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
This is the 40-acre parcel owned by the town as a result of the swap exchange real estate transaction had with a developer group that owned this 40 acres, Diamond Peak. It is now proposed to be annexed into town municipal boundaries for purposes of town jurisdictional control over its own property. It's affected and connected to the Lake Ecosystem Project, which is in the vicinity, and this kind of cleans up ownership, jurisdiction, rules, and regulations.
Thank you. You've heard the introductory reading of ordinance 1426. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1426.
Motion by Ms. Sheehan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Foreman. Questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Austin.
this will also be subject to the same legal proceedings as required for all annexations. There won't be any,
Even though we own it.
even though we own it.
Yep.
Okay.
So you'll see that coming down the pike here in the next 60 days.
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing then at that
Correct.
point. Yep.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
I think we made the time period to get this on your August 2nd agenda. I think 20 days from skinny it. So.
Thank you. We have motion second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 4, ordinance 1427, sprinkling usage regulations, amending ordinance 1385. Mr. Sharp, by title, please.
Ordinance number 1427, an ordinance amending town ordinance number 1385, being an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for the water utility of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, adopting said rules and regulations for the town, repealing all ordinances and town code sections or portions thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto, repealing all ordinances and town code sections or portions thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. You've heard the first reading of ordinance 1427. Mr. Salatas?
Council, this is currently within our ordinances. New home construction is exempt from our odd and even sprinkler regulations. Due to the drought that we experienced this year, there was increased demand on the system, and this would give the town manager or the water superintendent the authority to extend that sprinkling regulation odds and even days to new home construction when circumstances demand.
Would you explain what the odd and even, who that is?
It's based off of addresses, so those with even addresses would be allowed to water their lawns on even days, those with odd addresses on odd days.
And again, it's folks on the water.
On the municipal water.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Is there a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1427?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Scheven. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Is there a motion to suspend?
I'd like to make that motion to suspend the rules. The sooner we get this enacted, the better.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Second reading of ordinance 1427 by its title, please, Mr. Sharp.
Ordinance number 1427, an ordinance amending town ordinance number 1385, being an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for the water utility of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, adopting said rules and regulations for the town, repealing all ordinances and town code sections or portions thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related hereto.
Thank you. Second reading of ordinance 1427. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Scheven. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven? Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 5 is Resolution 1312, temporary loan resolution for 2017 RDA A, B, and C bonds. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Resolution number 1312, a resolution authorizing a temporary loan for the 2017 RDA A, B, and C bonds for the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana.
I'll find this one on here. There it is. Ms. Sandberg.
So, council, you see this one usually twice a year when it comes time for us to make the lease rental payment for the 2017 RDA B and C bonds. Usually we have a shortfall with the distribution, so we're just kind of catching up. So this is a temporary loan from the wastewater treatment special fund number 633 in the amount of $174,102.54 to be temporary loaned to fund number 412, which is the 2017 RDA A, B, and C bond fund, and upon receipt of the fall tax.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council to approve Resolution 1312 as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Hurt?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. BZA Plan Commission, item 1, variance of use extension, 1 year for Wahlberg at 7309-7319 Lakeshore Drive. Favorable recommendation from BZA on 7/14/2022. Mr. Salatas.
As it says here, it's received a favorable recommendation for 1-year extension. This is to allow, kind of caused by the Wahlbergs needing to get a bank loan, and the fact that their approval was expiring. They had a 6-month period that needed to be extended out so they can qualify for a loan to do work on their house.
And they also, it was listed as Fred Wahlberg, but they added Jeff to it too, because Fred submitted it and they wanted it to, so Jeff could have it too, and it's only why they own the property.
Thank you. We have a favorable recommendation from the BZA for a 1-year extension for variance of use at the address list. Is there a motion by the council?
So moved.
To approve?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan.
Second Bob's motion.
Mr. Foreman, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Hurt?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it. Old business, item 1 is approval of fire truck purchase through Sourcewell. This item was carried over from the last council meeting pending some review of processes, legal review, and the like. So Chris, we've done a good bit of homework on this. If you would like to, as you can see on the packet, we have nearly 100 pages of information. So if you would like to dive in and give a summary of those findings.
Yeah,
One more reason why iPads are great. Think about how much paper we save.
Yeah, Bob's got a nice stack of paper, almost an entire ream by the time it's
I
printed.
got Lake County Solid Waste, I got Northwest Indiana Regional Planning, I got the Plan Commission.
You're just like paper.
Bob, we'll give you an iPad to read. I don't like, I like to have something in front of me.
John, Bob likes to kill trees.
Yeah,
Okay.
I recycle the paper.
So the summation of these 100 pages are the legal documents that show the bidding process, and this was all gathered from the Sourcewell website, so anyone can either A, look up our packet that will be posted online, or go to the Sourcewell website and see exactly when they went out for bids, when they accepted them, who the scoring committee was. They're extremely transparent with all their processes. The bids for this specific product were, or piece of equipment, is extremely recent. It expires in 2026. It was just received in November of 2021. And then I believe Randy, you had mentioned in an email as well that over 800 government units across Indiana.
817 in Indiana alone, tens of thousands across the country.
Yeah. So just wanting to provide backup documentation for the support of this purchase.
So Indiana code.
Process of purchase.
Yeah, under Title V still requires even cooperative purchasing to take place within the structure of the code. So competitive bids have to be sought. You can't circumvent the code. And it spells out in Title 36 those procedures for cooperative purchasing. And Sourcewell, by documentation, has met all provisions of that code. The one question that Dave had brought up that is an interesting question is one of dispute resolution. So if there is a contractual issue that needs to be litigated, Sourcewell is a Minnesota corporation. And what venue and under what mechanisms would we be able to defend an Indiana municipality against a Minnesota corporation that is not a registered agent of Indiana?
That makes sense.
So that's the one question that Dave rose that I think still begs for a little clarification. While Sourcewell is only the purchasing agent, not the person we're going to contract with, we would be contracting with the manufacturer, but the purchasing agent is serving as the intermediary that helps municipalities and other government entities achieve volume buying power in the marketplace.
Are you gonna make any comments, Dave, because you seem to have some concern about this moving
No,
forward?
I've been doing this with Chris and Randy the past couple of days in anticipation of this meeting. We have spent a lot of time looking at a lot of material. This is a valid company, they're clearly reputable, they clearly have a large presence in this field and in this process. Not until recently, very recently, have they been very visual or connected.
Mainstream.
Yeah, mainstream, maybe that's a good word, Chris. So, dealing with this type of method and a manner of going about public purchasing is a change. It's a modernization change. And there are things that Randy and I are still arguing about related to this, and
It has more to do with the overarching interstate commerce
yeah, absolutely.
discussion
Oh, God.
that he and I got into today. This is the type of interesting stuff.
We don't want to be a point on that issue somewhere somehow, but to my knowledge, there is no issue out there. So it's a method you can choose. Title V is clear about special purchasing options and strategies that the town unit of government can use, and Title 36 is still confirmed to have been used.
Evan Bike tried to stop garbage trucks from coming to our landfills, and that was overruled because of interstate commerce.
There's no question that.
So it's sort of similar.
Sort of.
Yeah, this is just something that's unique to Cedar Lake at this point. It's something that's been around in law in various forms for the last probably close to 20 years.
We are about to have another unique purchasing process or bidding process in the agenda following, and yes, we are going to be utilizing processes that are new to Cedar Lake but not new to Indiana.
So the cooperative purchasing is under Indiana Code 36-1-7-1. And it's in the purchasing guide provided to us by the Accelerated Indiana Municipalities Organization, which we are a member of. So, again, the documentation is all there in our packet. Those things are all available online for the public to download, so please review the 100 pages if you so choose. But I trust that this work has been done and fully vetted, and also the volume of 817 units in Indiana utilizing this service, I think speaks volumes to its legitimacy.
Randy?
Yes.
I've also reviewed this personally and directly with and legal counsel, Becky McKay.
Okay. Yeah, and I think
A lot of vetting that went on in the last 2 weeks. Holy
it
smokes.
was necessary because the State Board of Accounts has a memo, and the State Board of Accounts loves to do this, where they recommend an attorney review and sign off of it. Well, we haven't necessarily used this, so they're asking an attorney that doesn't have familiarity with the process to sign off on something, although this is kind of a first foray into it. So we had to take a deep dive to figure this out to make sure that, number one, all provisions of Title V were being met related to public purchasing.
Right.
And number two, that the public, the taxpayers, have the transparency that's required within the law to make sure that they are getting the best value for their money.
It makes great evening reading if you need something to follow yourself to sleep.
No, I would say, yeah, this is our first time for going down this road, but Chris and Chief, good job collaborating. Mr. Austin as well.
We need to remember this vetting took place because we have a substantial public purchase to make with our taxpayer dollars. So, the work put in on it was for those reasons, and a lot of purchase, but needs to be right.
Okay, we have the approval of fire truck purchase through Sourcewell to consider. Is there a motion by the council? It's for the sum of $1,018,903.00. It's a Sutphen Extreme Duty Custom Rescue Engine complete and delivered. Delivery approximately 24 to 26 months. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Sheehan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Engmeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. And a note for the record is discussions with the clerk treasurer is we're considering an issuance of GO debt for the purchase of this as to not burden the cumulative capital funds for that purpose.
And we will.
Chief, do we get to take it for a drive, us guys up here?
2 years.
You can.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick, Mr. Chairman? First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for helping us get through this process. The knowledge that Chris had when we first talked about it, Dave Bettigat, council working hard at it. But I also want to thank my committee, and you're looking at 3 of them sitting over there that worked really hard on specing this truck. Chief Monger, Chief Stella, Lieutenant Kraft. You guys busted their
So
butts.
everybody sees who you are.
Raise your hand. When you build a fire truck, you don't just build a fire truck, you have experts in the field do it, and that's what they did. It's over 100 pages, and we spent a lot of time specing this truck. And
Well, you got over 100 pages of specs, and we got 100 pages of documentation of vetting.
so you guys did your job, we did our job.
Killed enough trees.
We're now making a fire truck 2 years later, hopefully, we're born sooner than that. So thanks to everybody, thank you to my people, I really appreciate your hard work, so.
Only 200 pages with $1 million, man, that's all it took.
Yeah.
We're good.
That truck 10 years ago was $400,000.
Yeah, I was talking to Dave about my experience with just rudimentary commercial vehicles, right? No fire equipment on it. 3 years ago, a beautiful over-the-road truck was $130,000. Today, it's almost $300,000 in a 3-year period. So equipment is expanding in price so quickly. The 9% CPI is a bunch of nonsense with inflation.
You know, it's interesting to me, Randy, and maybe to some of you also, we go to the AIM conferences every year, and they keep us up to speed and put us ahead of things. We never heard or saw anything about this process in any of those conferences.
Yeah, I don't recall there being any educational opportunities to learn about that.
And it would seem with a company like this vendor, Sourcewell, with 817 contacts or clients or
Members, they're actually members of the cooperative.
you would think it was widespread and there would be some information about it. So
Our neighbors to the north in St. John and to the south in Lowell are both members of the cooperative.
I was told by an adjacent or nearby town that this is going on all the time and in that community, they were already members or they were, well, of course they didn't know it. Town council president didn't know it, the public works director didn't know it. Apparently, you're a member by existing as a unit, or seemingly so.
Basically, as soon as you make a purchase, you're a member.
It's modernization.
You have to become a member to make a purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really should be in our strategy options when these types of purchases are being made.
We did contemplate using Sourcewell for a crane truck vehicle that the sewer department needs to maintain our lift stations, but Sourcewell did not have the piece of equipment that the works department needed, so we just didn't go that path.
Thank you. Anything else, Chief Wilkening?
Oh, yeah,
Thank you. New business, item 1 is CCMG 2022-1 project bid award, Parish Avenue and 133rd Avenue. Mr. Salati.
We had the bid opening today at 10 o'clock. Don turned around the bid tabulation pretty quickly for us since there were only 2 bidders, Milestone and Reese Riley. Reese Riley came in the lowest, most responsive bidder at $303,619. So our recommendation is to award the bid to Reese Riley for that amount. And this is the CCMG Community Crossroads Grant 2022-1, and I believe the grant amount that we received from the state was $123,000?
I believe it was 123.3.
Yeah, 123 or 124, somewhere in that ballpark. And then the rest would be for the town.
This is the first time I've seen in a long time Reese Riley with us.
Yeah.
Sharpening their pencils.
They're a little bitter everywhere right now.
So,
Is that right? Yeah.
just for clarification, where will this,
Yes, so this will be on 133rd from Parish Avenue, where we'll be doing the intersection, parts of the intersection as part of our existing Parish Avenue project that we have going on right now. It will carry us to the railroad viaduct. And it will just be a mill and pave. The subgrade is good, it's just
Not a viaduct, just railroad
a
crossing.
railroad crossing, yeah, sorry.
yeah, so going to the west,
By Casey's.
west from
Industrial Drive.
Parish west to the railroad tracks, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you, we have a
My
low,
apologies.
Yeah, Norfolk Southern.
we have a low, because the railroad viaduct is
The other direction.
east.
Yeah.
We have a low bidder of Reese Riley Construction of $303,619 for the described project. Is there a motion by the council to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion?
No, I think Bob was gonna say it was out towards Cook Lounge.
Cook Lounge.
Just didn't make it there.
Or towards Schreiber Oil. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Now Schilling.
Yeah. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Church?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Next item, item 2 is approval of public safety center design. I thought we were going through one of those rolling around now.
Setting the mood for you.
See what the hell happened with NIPSCO. Approval of public safety center designed by K2M. Presentation.
All right.
David.
David Rainey with Veritas Group. I'm the owner's rep for the project for the town. I'm going to do some introductions here and kind of kick this off and then let them take it from here. But just to give you a quick update on the purpose, we want to make sure that, as we spoke last time, we wanted to not do this in a silo and make sure that you have the proper updates that you need to be able to see the progress that we're making. So that's important for us to be able to do that with you tonight. We started this process out with K2M, our introductions, Scott Maloney with K2M and Eric Rose with DS Architecture. So we started this process out in April with some visioning and programming sessions. They were all-day long sessions with staff, Mr. Salatas, as well as the fire chiefs and other staff in the town. That process continued on. Basically, after that, we went through multiple sessions, weekly sessions, from that time frame, and continued to work through the programming of looking at the site layout, the building, what that program looked like, etc. Tonight, what you're going to see with K2M and DS Architecture is really the culmination of everything that we've done, the progress that we've had since April. So there's been a lot of work that's been done. Bringing two user groups with the fire and police under one structure is a complicated thing, and I think they've done a fantastic job, and appreciate all the help from the fire chiefs, Mr. Salatas.
And we put a heck of a tight budget on this thing.
And we had a tight budget, so we're in.
Dave, it's police and fire, not fire chiefs.
Police and fire.
I was wondering when you were going to.
Yeah. But I will say.
Such sensitive.
You're going to have the entire police force here.
There you go.
Continue on, David.
Yes. I will say there is a lot of work yet to do, so we have a lot of work ahead of us. I'll give an update here on the next agenda item as far as the delivery process with DOT, but for right now, Scott, I'm going to let this go to you.
Certainly. Thanks, David. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. I'll try and project as loud as I can without the microphone in front of me.
If I can speak towards that microphone though, so people watching on our YouTube feed can hear you. That would be perfect. Not going to move much, a little bit.
Perfect.
Put that on your shirt.
So, as David mentioned, we did start off with a a visioning session. And a visioning session, just so you were aware, is sort of this 50,000-foot look at what we want the project to become. You know, as we're going to start going through the programming and the developing, but we really kind of take it, you know, from that big bird's eye view, and we establish some goals, some expectations for the project. You know, we start to align words in terms of building, workplace image, and things that are most important to the police and fire department as we kind of create this, you know, next 40 to 50 year, you know, we have this 40 to 50 year investment in the community itself. And so really kind of, you know, taking it, you know, at that 50,000 foot level and establish a series of goals. And these overarching goals are something that we will, you know, measure this project against throughout the entire course of the design process, into the build, and as it's operating. And so the first one is, you know, provide a functional public safety service that efficiently serves your growing community. I mean, right now, the safety service forces are extremely constrained in both the police department as well as in the fire facilities, and so we've been able to create a facility that's not exaggerant or exorbitant in scale, but is really right-sized to the, you know, the lifetime operation within this facility. And it's creating a space that's collaborative, right? And so Eric's going to talk about shared amenities, but we really work very hard at as efficiently as possible designing this building so that we have the, you know, the best use of collaborative facilities, conference spaces, fitness space, things of that nature. Building a building that's focused on safety and wellness of the first responders. I mean, certainly 30, 40 years ago, the design techniques that were used at that time to create small volunteer fire departments are nothing like what we have experienced today in terms of, you know, creating zones, you know, to really kind of create a safe building away from contaminants, especially coming from the fire truck into the facility itself, but also creating a facility that's that has a sort of a de-stressing level to it, right? And so from a mental well-being perspective, there's a lot goes into that for both the police and the fire departments. You know, a building that's innovative and contributes sort of to the, you know, the town setting, and we'll show you some of that images and how we feel that does throughout the, you know, the exterior of the elevations. One that attracts and retains staff. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing throughout the state of Indiana. We've talked to many fire chiefs and police chiefs over the last, you know, several months, and, you know, the ability to attract and retain staff is something that is extremely important right now because everybody's fighting for that same type of resource. And of course, it's forward thinking and then leverages those shared resources. And so, you know, as you do make this 40, you know, to 50-year investment in this project, we really have, you know, kind of think about these goals as Eric kind of unveils the overall design for the facility.
Thanks, Scott. Eric Rose, DS Architecture. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the design of the building. I won't bore you with all the details, but just to give you a quick update of what we're looking at here. So to orient you to the site, we're looking at the southeast corner of this town complex on the corner of Constitution and Moore Street. That site was chosen after careful consideration of other parcels around the community. We think it's really going to serve the community well, and it gives us the ability for this station to serve the eastern side of the lake while the existing fire station on the west can remain a volunteer resource on that side of the community. One of the things we really focus on here is keeping it as close as we can to that corner, so we're not obstructing the views from Moore Street out to the lake or encroaching any more into that park space than we need to. So we've taken careful consideration to be responsible about how this fits into the existing infrastructure as well. That the existing parking lot can just be sort of an extension of that infrastructure that already exists. I'll walk you quickly through some of the program pieces, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have afterwards, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about here. But at the very top of the sheet there, you see some red and a blue bar. That's where the fire apparatus will be parked. And that blue bar, like Scott was saying, is a way to safely decontaminate all of their gear after they come back from a call, whether it be a fire or if there's bodily fluids on them. Keeps all of those undesirable things out of their living quarters where these guys spend a third of their lives. So taking careful consideration to make sure that that functions as well. So having immediate access out to Moore Street, a little larger road that can accommodate the larger vehicles that are leaving it, and giving enough separation between that and the intersection of Constitution so that there's not a risk of vehicular kind of interactions there that would be negative to their movement. Coming down the page a little bit more, you'll see some green bars there. Those are the spaces where the fire crew will operate out of. So their kitchen, their dining, their day rooms, as well as a fitness facility. And then also, as Scott mentioned, a place for them to, that whole area there, thank you. A place to de-stress, right? A place to get away for a moment and have some time to de-stress. And as well as those collaboration spaces for both fire and police to collaborate and to do their work in an environment that supports their professional well-being. So, So moving on down to the orangish bars, those are some of the public areas that are shared between the two communities. So we've got a training room, we've got a place to take reports, we've got a place for a conference room for both fire and police to be able to use that space and interact with the public in a positive way. Coming around the bottom here, we've got more admin spaces. The yellow is the fire administration offices. Those kind of are at the corner there with plenty of views out to the site if visitors are coming. The blue ones to the left there are the police admin, and again, having those two different departments sort of sharing those spaces together in a collaborative environment is very unique, and I think it's a great opportunity for the community here. Moving all the way to the far left there, we'll see some of the police area, the Sally Port, where their police cruisers can come in, they can take in evidence, they can do questioning, and a place for the patrol to do their work. Very top of the building here, the unique thing that Scott mentioned before is the fact that you do have folks that are staying here, sleeping overnight. So the dorm rooms that will house the fire crew overnight, individual bunks that support men and women and give them the privacy that they need. This next, so here's a quick shot of what it looks like. We're at sort of a schematic design level, so we're kind of, I don't know, what would you say, 20% through the process, something like that. So we've got some early ideas of what the building might look like. We're trying to pick up on some of the character of the community, trying to be responsible and think about the history of this community, but also kind of looking forward as the community continues to grow. And as Scott mentioned, you want to attract and retain talent with a modern facility, but kind of leans back and looks toward its history. So looking at durable materials that will last, the 40 to 50 year expected life of this building, low maintenance, things that will not be a burden to your community, but more of an asset as we look at that.
So something important to recognize with this, the overall scale of the building is approximately 20,400 square feet. And if you were to be creating this facility, we would tell you as planners, approximately 4 acres of site, so like one acre per 5,000 square feet of building. We are actually at
like 1.7, so we're trying to be very efficient with the site. So we're about half of what you normally would expect for land use for a building of this nature. And again, we're just really trying to be efficient with how we use the site circulation, kind of borrowing from some of the existing infrastructure that's there, and trying to preserve as much of that green space as possible. Exactly. So here's some quick renderings of what the exterior starts to look like. Again, we're looking at some very durable materials, so products like stone, as well as products that offer some insulation. We're looking for energy efficiency out of this building as well, so insulation, insulated metal panels potentially for the exterior as well. They require no maintenance. They provide a very durable exterior and have kind of an air of dignity and respect for a public building of this nature. And then we're trying to work in some warmer areas where there's entries or exterior spaces for the fire and police with some warmer kind of wood tones that make the building feel approachable, make the building feel like it supports that well-being and that health and wellness that we're looking for. This would be the view that you're looking at, kind of from that intersection of Constitution and Moore Street. So, looking at this building is kind of the gate into this civic campus. Making sure that we're putting on a good facade while on the road there, while not, trying to make this a Taj Mahal either. We're looking at it as an opportunity to make a statement for your community, and we hope that we'll continue to move forward. Again, we've got quite a bit more work to do here, but we wanted to give you an update this evening and kind of let you know what we've been up to here. So I'll kick it back over to Scott here to talk a little bit about some of the estimating that we've been doing so far.
Right, so from the cost estimate perspective, we do look at it both hard cost and soft cost. So hard cost,
are the physical building costs. So the cost of the materials that Eric just talked about, the cost of, developing the site for the project. So the physical building and the vertical components of the project. So the building costs, we're carrying, low, medium, and high because given the level of development that we are currently. So we're sort of at a rough order of magnitude estimate of approximately $400 a square foot. We've been seeing the cost of technology and security increase, and so we're starting to carry that as an individual line item. It's typically 3% for a facility of this nature, and then an allowance for the site work because there is a little bit of a grade to the site overall, so there's going to be some fill and some cutting in places in order to be able to get the as level of an area as we possibly can get compared to what they have today. So that builds out, somewhere between an 8.2 to an 8.8 is our expected range for this project. From a physical hard cost perspective, the soft costs are approximately an additional 35% on top of the hard costs, and that includes everything from contingency. So we carry about an 8% contingency. We're carrying a 5% escalation factor. That's what the sort of trades are saying, that the cost is going to increase from now until next year. So within the next 12 months, about another 5%. Insurance, various fees, and then, of course, other costs, and then furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So, building a new facility, we want to make sure we're able to outfit it with, the appropriate desks, workstations, bunks, and, the basic equipment that's going to go inside the facility for the police and fire to operate from. Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Any questions for the gentleman here by the council?
So today's, what we just saw was the Public Safety Center design. So the approval today is to move forward with them working on this design? And how many acres was it on again?
1.7.
Just under 2? Wow.
Yeah.
Very efficient use of that corner.
Yeah. The shape of the building, how we have it, and then the fact that we're using the existing parking lot is a big deal for us to really kind of minimize the impact on the parking.
Just curious, and I don't want to alarm anyone, the south of that location where we have a well, did we ever at least look at that from a acreage standpoint? Does anyone know, or no?
We did not specifically, partially because of where it would be located on the road.
Right.
The fire department would be pulling out onto basically two sides of a hill.
Yeah, it's a rough terrain, I give you that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, and that's why I had that site allowance as well, because there is a little bit of grade here, and we want to make sure that, we're not pointing up, trying to come out onto the site, and then having to sort of bend. So that's something that we've been particularly paying attention to, and how we located this building in particular.
Which one of these, we got low, medium, and high, which one are we gonna go with?
So we're probably just under the medium number at this point in time. I mean, obviously, we have a fixed budget that we are working towards. So, but given the fact that we are only 20% complete, I want to make sure that we're looking at a series of dollar numbers that kind of, guide our decision-making as we're working through this project. So every week when we have a conversation, we talk money, and we talk scale, and we talk,
And our financial advisor's been involved in these conversations all throughout, monitoring what our capacity is, what the impact on taxpayers might be, and before this thing becomes a reality, we want to have a pro forma done by our financial advisor to make sure that the public understands what this looks like for their wallet. There'll be a small impact based on preliminary estimations, extremely minimal impact on the average taxpayer. So it's exciting that we're in this position to do this. And if the community continues to grow even at a moderate level, by about year 3, that impact will disappear, just due to levy growth. Any other questions for the gentleman?
I do not. No, sir.
I will tell you all, it's been an absolute pleasure working with your community. It's been a real joy. I mean, these guys are amazingly dedicated, to this effort, and they should be recognized for that. So thank you, guys.
Make sure to acknowledge both the police and.
The police first, though.
But we had a great team too with, if people looked at the project team here at the front of this with, Chris, our town manager, Todd Wilkin, Bill Fisher, Nick Mager, Carl Brittingham, Cliff Rowe, David Rainey, Scott Maloney, Scott Moore, and Eric Crows. This team, took on something that I don't think any of us ever could have really imagined what it would look like, but when I saw the renderings of the building, the possibility here, it's exciting to me to see something that is thoughtful to the nature of the property. It's not an overdone government building. I think we've seen way too many of those, and I don't think the community would respond too well to pillars and columns like we're in ancient Rome. And I think for the utility of it, for police and fire, to improve our public safety services and continue to sustain a safe community, this is a must at this point.
Well, especially when you look at the geographical circles, having a secondary station makes total sense.
And
you have a lake in the middle of our community right now, no matter what. The folks on the southeast, for sure, are suffering.
And considering the next wave of growth in this community is here on the east side, the west side is seeing a lot of fill-in right now, but the next big wave is over here. This makes a lot of sense to have this area, and you guys spelled out as part of this packet the radius, the radii around.
It's almost that 2 mile radius is really the sweet spot, and of course the roads, as the crow flies, the 2 miles.
And the two centers balance each other actually very well when it comes to, when you see how it's drawn on the map.
Exactly.
So it's exciting that it kind of worked out this way, and hopefully the council's ready to move forward with it.
And Schilling has 200 houses approved at Lakeside, and they brought in a concept plan to go south of there with 519 more houses, and then we've got the golf course down there that will be developed in the future.
This is the next wave of growth right here. So.
Exactly. And you'll be able to serve it with this facility. It's very easy.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your work. Appreciate what you've done in working with our team. Chief Fisher.
Mr. President, Council, I just got to tell you, this was very enjoyable. It was different. Dave Rainey and Veritas have been phenomenal with helping us out. Scott and Eric are amazing at what they do. And every time we would put our input in something, they would shoot back with something else. Hey, how about this? What do you think about this? We have met just about every week. I think I missed one because of a meeting, but met every week about things. So the team that you guys put together for us to do this has been absolutely amazing. So thank you very much for the effort. And Chris, you can't say enough about Chris. So
don't say too much.
Todd
and I really appreciate the effort that you're putting in, and that you allowed us to look into this for the police and fire, because how bad we're blowing out of the seams, for lack of better terms, and have no room for the work that we're doing. So I just want to say thank you all from the police department, definitely. So thank you guys very much.
Well, I'm appreciative to the taxpayers of this community for putting us in this position to be able to do this. Without our loyal and good taxpayers, you can't do things like this. So this is their building, and it's meant to improve and sustain their community. So that's an important part of this.
That's what you sense it. They wanted to spend a lot more money. Commissioner and I kept them in line the whole time. That's all I'm trying to tell you. So, these guys are great, man. We had to keep going back at them. No, we want to keep it under this.
That side of the room may explode.
I'll say this.
It was actually just the opposite. They kept us on track. That was the.
They even learned fire chief.
One call I participated in was the initial startup call of, where's our budget gonna be? And we set the target for 10 million. And I thought that I could hear the chief losing his breath through the phone, that it, of course, wasn't enough, but that was part of the process and part of the plan to make sure that we weren't overdoing the things that we needed to do, that we were doing this everything needs-based, so, now, appreciate you guys all working together here, and, it was nice to be an observer to the process.
The, I guess, last round of thank yous would just come from myself to the council. Thank you for putting the town in a amazing financial position in order to envision a project of this magnitude. Most communities are not as fiscally prudent as this community has been, and it's certainly an honor, as I'm sure both the fire chiefs also feel it's an honor to work on a project like this. And certainly the delivery method that will be tried here will save the taxpayers a significant amount of money by going through BOT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an item for consideration, which is the approval of Public Safety Center design by K2M. We just saw the presentations. There a motion by the council to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
So again, the approval is to move forward with the design.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Sherwood?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was worried about that.
Motion carries 7-0. Item 3 is the approval for Veritas to proceed with the BOT, which means build, operate, transfer. David, if you want to get us into the alphabet soup here.
There you go. All right. Just to give you an update of where we're at with the BOT process, we put an RFQ, BOT Build, Operate, Transfer Statute 523. We put an RFQ out on June 21st. We put out the proper notifications, publications to 2 of them, and they were due on July 15th. We received 1 respondent with GM Development, Greg Martz. I would have loved to have seen multiple respondents to this, and I'll explain how I think we're still in a really good spot. We've delivered these projects across the state and multiple different communities. Typically what I find is that there'll be multiple building groups that'll come and present a proposal for these type of RFQs, and they'll all have GM Development on there as the BOT developer. He's probably the one that has done 95% of these across the state and done them very well. So he's by far stands out among most of the developers. He purposefully came and responded without a builder group, which I think is pretty advantageous for us right now, because we're going to be able to look at where we're at with this building, the work that K2M and DS Architecture have done, and be able to really fine tune and he'll be able to select the right building partner for us to deliver the product at the right price and get it on budget. So I feel very confident about that. He said we interviewed him this morning. I believe he indicated that he could have come with 5 different partner groups if he would have chosen to, that he elected to not. So we'll go back to that. Next steps then really would be to work with GM Development to select that building partner, and then from that point dive into the schematic design and start pricing this thing as we're designing and finishing the design. So to the point of the gentleman here, where are we going for with price point? We have a budget we have to hold, so we have to keep the design in line with the construction, and that's the whole point of bringing on this BOT developer and builder team right now, is so that we're doing that pricing with them, so that when we get out of this here and kind of that Q4, that fourth quarter of 22, we'll be able to get a guaranteed maximum price from GM Development to deliver this project. That will be the real decision for this council at that point. He'll come to that meeting. It'll be a public meeting for an approval of that BOT agreement with a guaranteed maximum price. And from that point forward, then, that's the price that he would hold for the town to build this facility. Okay. Any questions that I can answer with regard to that process?
So how much is this, I don't see a price for this BOT.
So that's the good thing about this process. So he is coming to us,
So
and
let's
it's
give you
going to
the
go
approval,
through
what
the
are we
scoping.
paying Veritas?
Pardon?
If we were to give you this approval, what do we pay Veritas? I'm not seeing a price.
So this BOT, nothing. So there's really no formal approval required because there's no fee associated with their scoping. GM Development, it's on the last page, I think page 18 of their response.
Okay.
There is no scoping fee associated with their work here. So they're going to go through this process with a builder group to price this, work with K2M, and come to a point where we get a guaranteed maximum price. And at that point, then we'll have a BOT agreement, and the fees will all be disclosed in that guaranteed maximum price. But there's no fee to move forward at this point. If we get to a point where we go through this entire process and we get to a GMP, and this council says, you know what, we're not going to go further, there's no price that we owe GM Development at that point. So it's the best way that we can present a situation for this council to protect you and your assets. So, okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Rainey? Okay, we have consideration of the approval for Veritas to proceed with the BOT, which would be with, what's the name of the development group?
GM Development.
GM Development. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, is there a second?
To approve? Motion to approve. Second motion to approve.
Rick beat you to it.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I'm closer to Randy.
I heard Rick.
I'm closer to
Ralph, you
you.
want a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Miller.
I didn't hear him.
I didn't hear him either.
I didn't hear him.
My left ear is really good.
Two older people other than me did hear me.
So we have a motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Chris, the letter from Barnes and Thornburg pertains to this, is that correct?
Yeah, so this would be, the next item would be, for the.
Oh, that's the next item, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's engagement
I
for
jumped down
bond
one.
counsel.
Okay, I apologize.
Which is typically what we do when we do projects.
I knew this was costing us something. I wanted to know where it was costing.
Oh, I mean,
The next line.
It was pretty transparent in the presentation that the project budget right now is about $12 million. So that's been transparent the whole time. There's no hidden costs. Any other questions or discussions? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 4 is, thank you, David. Item 4 is Barnes and Thornburg Legal Services Engagement Municipal Complex Improvements Bond Financing. Chris.
So kind of as part of the conversation John was just having, this is, for the financing aspect of this, we're bringing Barnes and Thornburg on as our bond counsel, as they, I think, generally have always been. They do a really phenomenal job. They're used across the state of Indiana. Built to send us specifically out of the South Bend office is very amazing to work with. This would be wrapped into the, when a bond is finally taken, this would be part of the professional service fees that are taken out of that bond.
Thank you.
And the cost is estimated between $35,000 and $45,000.
So their initial fees.
For their initial fees, yeah.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on item 4, Barnes and Thornburg Legal Services Engagements?
Make a motion to approve Barnes and Thornburg legal engagement for the municipal complex bond financing.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Sharp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 5, well, we've got this officially kicked off now. This is great.
Yep.
Item 5 is CBBEL pay request 1 in the amount of $322,363.80 to Milestone for the Parish Avenue project. Mr. Salatas.
This is just that. There's been a pretty good amount of work done, as you can drive by there and see that their curb has been poured and subgrade is down. So this is the first pay request as part of that project. They're still in phase one of that project as well.
Curb looks low, doesn't it?
The entire street is being
Yeah, it should
lowered.
be dropped quite a bit.
Was it 18
When I first
inches?
saw that curb being poured, I was like, man, it's 18 inches lower at the, hard to believe.
Now all the water's gonna go.
Where it needed to go,
Yep.
instead of Randy's yard.
No,
We're trying to direct it that way.
I actually sit on a pretty high lot. I don't even have sump pumps.
The highest point, the finest neighborhood in town.
Yeah, pretty much.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But I have a swale in my backyard that fills up with water. Other than that, it's okay.
I'm kidding.
But listen, I'm gonna be inconvenienced by Neil's water main project.
But yes, you are.
All right, thank you, Chris. Is there a motion by the council to approve pay request one, in the amount of $322,300?
So moved, motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Church?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 6, CVBEL pay request 2 in the amount of $124,753.76, Milestone for Highland subdivision. Mr. Salatas.
Very similarly, work is being completed, and as it's being completed, the pay request is coming in. And then for all these road projects, and you'll be able to see in your written report exactly where they stand as far as paving and et cetera.
Thank you. A motion by the council to approve pay request 2 in the amount of $124,753.76.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Church?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 7 is request for approval to sell 2 old police department vehicles on govdeals.com. Chief Fisher.
Council, the very first vehicle is a 2011 Dodge Charger that you guys decommissioned a couple of years ago, and we were supposed to send it down to the academy to be utilized down there. During my discussions with we were getting it set up, and then I lost all discussions with them. About 2 months after that, I was told that the officer or the instructor down at the academy that I was dealing with passed away unexpectedly. So they kind of stopped what they were doing on that. We've been holding on to this car for quite some time, and it's really not worth holding on to. And we just decommissioned another 2011 with over 133,000 miles on it. Literally, I think Monday was the last day it was on the road, so it's got a lot of problems. So we'd like to, strip the cars out and then at least get something for them on Gov Deals. It goes back to the general fund.
Thank you. We have a letter here from the Chief of Police requesting the decommissioning of 2 2011, or not decommissioning, but the sale of 2 2011 Dodge Chargers on govdeals.com. Is there a motion by the council?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
Richard Church?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Town council reports.
The chamber is having a golf outing on July 30th at 1 o'clock with shotgun. Ashley informed me what a shotgun was. She said they could start at 18 and finish on 70. Because I don't golf, I didn't know that.
What was it?
July 30th.
Where?
Minnie Manette.
Benny Munez.
Any minutes.
Grant Park.
Right, and it's $85.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Carnahan?
No.
Town council. I have, again, I want to say, in these last couple meetings, we have been investing the taxpayers' funds in needed projects and equipment, and I just want to say thank you. as Chris stated, we're in a pretty advantageous financial position. Our financial planning has been done with a slowdown of growth in mind. So everything we've been doing has been estimating our financial plan on some of the worst case scenarios. So we have a great financial firm that we work with, and I think Jen can attest to that. Very conservative in their approach to everything, and it's no different in these things that we're approving. These are all very doable, affordable, and even if there is an economic pause, which is a possibility, we're in a very good position to continue to move forward. So thank you to the taxpayers of this community.
Randy, I also wanted to make a comment. Our Parks Department had activity for senior citizens last week over at the clubhouse. They had 50 seniors show up, and it was amazing to see all of the people and the great time that everybody had, and Parks Department did a fabulous job. So,
Thank you, Ralph.
Do we need them in the agenda for the RDC appointment?
Yeah, we'll do that. I wanted to have one more report here on Schneider Street sightlines. It's something we've been talking about for quite a while at Schneider and 133rd. Enterprise Rent-A-Car has cars parked out at 133rd. If you're at the stop sign at Schneider Street and you look left, you essentially have no vision unless you pull the front of the car out towards the lane of traffic. This is something that's been ongoing. We've received an engineering report from Mr. Oliphant on recommended action. And my question tonight is, when can we expect that a visit will be paid to the folks at Tom and Ed's who own the parcel to make some changes so that those sight lines that should have been adhered to during the federally approved and INDOT road project that weren't adhered to, because essentially they're not meeting the standards of that approval of that project for engineering. So what is the possible timeline of resolving that issue?
I mentioned within.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to them over there at the Tom and Ed's, and they've been pretty cooperative. So, I mean, our plan is to move the parking ballards back to the white fence to the west, correct?
I don't know. That was Don, whatever Don's engineering report said is kind of what we're going with.
Well, I mean, we've had so many things over there, but I guess the next try, I mean, we moved them back, that's probably an additional 2 feet, but they scooted them back and it was pretty good, but they scooted them and then passed them out to the parking lot, so they keep creeping back towards the sidewalk, but, if that's our final, I was kind of waiting for our final answer to.
Don did send a final report and recommendation on it.
Okay, we'll talk to him then this week, and he's been pretty cooperative, and as long as that's gonna let him.
You know, there's also a line of sight issue when you are going towards south on Parish, and there's that new detour. The gentleman that lives in that home parks his service truck on the corner. I almost witnessed firsthand an accident, somebody going due east, and they did not see it. You cannot see. So maybe if we just, Billy, or Chief Fisher, if you could just stop and ask them if they park the car closer towards their driveway.
I didn't hear you say where
on the detour road going to Winding Creek.
Okay. If you take a left in Winding Creek.
Yeah, as soon as you take a left, then you take the first right.
Okay.
The people that are trying to go from the south, turning east, or turning west, there's a large van that blocks anyone turning left's view, and if anyone's going straight, it's an accident waiting to happen. I almost witnessed an accident.
Take a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, the reason I bring up these sight lines is because we had a federally approved project that requires certain sight lines to be maintained through the engineering of that project, and those sight lines just were not adhered to. We simply ignored it. So that's why I brought that up. The other thing Ms. Rivera brought up is I would like the council to consider an amendment to the agenda to add the appointment of an RDC member for the vacant spot that was vacated by Greg Parker when he moved over to the Plan Commission.
I'd make a motion to amend the agenda for the RDC appointment.
Motion by Mr. Form, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Farrell?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Stevens?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate James Hunley.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan for Jim Hunley. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera for Jim Hunley. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. We have a first and second for Mr. Hundley. Is there a motion by the council? Is there any questions or discussion?
No, he's,
Roll call.
served in all roles here.
It's his birthday today.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Stevens?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
This motion carries 7-0.
And Chief Fisher, I learned today on Facebook that he was officer friendly at one time.
Who was that?
Jim Hunley. He's our former chief. He's
I
on
think
the
that's when I
town.
was in grade school, Bob, I remember that.
It looks like Chief Fisher wants to debate that statement.
I golf with Jim, so I don't know if he's officer friendly anymore. He's competitive. No, he's good.
Any other council reports? Town attorney?
No reports.
Clerk treasurer?
Council, I just wanted to give a quick report. Last week, we had IPEP here for a meeting with the department heads. We discussed workers' compensation and risk management. I think it was a very well-received meeting with the department heads and their staff members. And I think we're going to see some good things moving forward as we start really developing SOPs in some departments that previously may not have had SOPs, and really kind of getting into making sure we're on top of safety training and other sorts of training to mitigate any risk.
Thank you. Town manager?
I think the only thing that we haven't covered is that we're just trucking through the budget, having some of those meetings. We've got some scheduled coming up here. Otherwise, all of our projects are generally on task and on time.
Thank you. I wanted to bring up one point of some legislation that was passed in a recent legislative session dealing with committee meetings of governing bodies. Open door laws have changed slightly, and we have standing committees here, and since we're a body of 7, this affects us, since we have 3-member committees. So there are things that are called serial meetings under the open door laws. And I was doing a little bit of study on this, and it's one gathering is attended by at least 3 members, but less than a quorum. So this says a serial meeting occurs when members of a governing body participate in a series of at least 2 meetings and all the following conditions are met. So if we meet all of these following conditions, we have to advertise the committee meetings as a public meeting, but it has to meet all of the conditions. If one of them's not present, then you still fall under the ad hoc committee rules. So one gathering is attended by at least 3 members, but less than a quorum. The other gatherings include at least 2 members of the governing body. The sum of different members participating at least equals a quorum. The gatherings concern the same subject matter and are held within a period of 7 days. And the gatherings are held to take official action on public business. So typically in our committee meetings, they don't occur within 7 days.
Never take official action.
And we never take official action. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear that on the update to the open door laws, that our committee system that we use still qualifies as ad hoc committees. So
Is that active as of July 1 or
July
something?
1, yeah. It actually came from attending a county council meeting where some of that subject came up, and so I started to study it and said, okay, we need to make sure that we are following these rules, and none of the committee meetings that we've ever had have broken those rules. So as long as we continue to be aware of these things, the council typically report back to the full council, or the town manager reports back on behalf of the committee or the clerk treasurer. So I just wanted to give that little update to things because of legislative changes.
Thank you.
Director of Operations?
The parish thing is going well. They're gonna be paving, actually, that phase 1 Thursday. They're finishing stone tomorrow. So that little section will be done, so next week we'll be in the bigger inconvenience of that road closed from the grocery store through, so it's, everybody's got to go all the way around now, so it'll be, probably the worst part of it, so it's coming quickly.
My daughter's very happy she's going back to Alabama.
I can imagine.
That's true, yeah.
Like it's gonna be hard to live with or something?
What's that, Tom?
You gonna be hard to live with or what?
That's every day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Come on.
Be nice to them.
Anything else, Tim?
No, that's it, thank you.
Police Department?
Council, you received our monthly report, so you can see that we had 1,032 calls for service, averaging almost 34 calls per day still, over 6,100 calls for the year. We issued 104 state citations, 253 warnings for the year, or for the month, at a total of 26 arrests, 43 charges filed, for a total of 310 for the year. So we're moving quite along pretty well. 3 of the 4 vehicles that we purchased are currently in service now. We just put them in service. The last one actually started last night. They have the ghost decals on them, so you'll see them a little bit more prevalent at nighttime when the lights shine on them. But during the day, it just looks like a black Charger. The 4th one should be, we're picking it up tomorrow, so it'll be moving. And again, we saved about $28,000 by purchasing those cars.
I thought it was 30, that's what I've been telling people.
30,000. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to go back and tell everybody that you weren't telling the right thing.
Okay.
We did save quite a bit of money on that. We also attended the senior citizen thing with the Parks Department. It was pretty amazing. We had the opportunity to meet up with the senior citizens. We signed up 22 of them to the RAID program for alerting for the town of Cedar Lake. Myself and my staff, along with Clip, helped those senior citizens get signed up for it so they could get alerts on their phone, which worked out really good. Especially when the town has, a boil order or something like that, they'll start receiving them on their phone. So worked out really good. And the only complaint they had was they want more senior citizen activities on a daily basis. So I explained it to them that we're at our very beginning here. Give the Parks Department, our Park Board, an opportunity to get there. They're still trying to get their feet wet. Some of them were receptive to that, and others were like, I'm tired of waiting, let's get it going. So,
Sun City.
it was an amazing turnout. I think they really enjoyed it, and it was nice. So,
We're working through the budget process at providing a very workable budget so the Park Board can hire a director and put together a staff that could help to make sure that these are more frequent activities. As well as part of this building, this public safety facilities, to provide space here so that we can house things like the Parks Department, because we're full. And,
So the day we bulldoze that little house out there will be a happy day.
will you be on the
It's
bulldozer,
pretty ugly.
Johnny?
I'm driving the bulldozer.
Okay.
my last thing, Council, is we lost an officer to St. John. He resigned and officially started on Monday at the town of St. John. He was a month prior to completing his contract, so I'll be forwarding that information over to David.
Which officer?
Officer Stickle.
Oh, wow.
He now works for the town of St. John. We're in the process of emergency hire. We have a candidate that's gone in front of the Board of Safety and has been approved, so I should hopefully have him, tentatively been approved. They're looking for a couple more documents, but I'm hoping to have him in front of you guys on August 2nd for approval and a hiring. He is certified and currently works for a department, so
Good.
that would be a lateral transfer. But we'll still be one short from our minimum staffing, so we're trying, we're taking applications right now. It's just not
It's a
applying.
struggle everywhere, Chief.
It's just not applying. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I have a quick question, Chief. A citizen asked me, offhand, were there any citations issued for fireworks or noise ordinances?
I don't believe so. I'd have to look, but I don't believe so. But I did have an answer for you for the fireworks complaint for the non-response that we were told. So we researched that and looked into it and investigated it. The police department was actually never notified of the fireworks complaint due to the ongoing calls that were going on at the time. When that fireworks complaint came in, the fire department and the police were dealing with an actual fire. And as they cleared, two officers had made traffic stops, and then we had to call over here at the yacht club for the impaling. My officers got on scene first and actually put literally impaling, put the tourniquet on the subject's leg, which helped stop the bleeding when the fire department medics got on scene. So when that call came in for the fireworks complaint that the citizen said we weren't responding to, was actually the dispatcher explaining to them, look, we can't right now, we have nobody, and it's going to be a while. So she tried to explain it to them. That was brought to me by Southcom. I told her I understood, and I think the dispatcher did exactly what you're supposed to based on the call that we were currently on, and life-saving for that matter. So that's why that citizen was told that we weren't responding. So,
Fair enough.
If this is things like, would things like enforcing the fireworks ordinance be something that would be worthwhile to have our code enforcement officer engaged in?
I mentioned
Julie, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rivera did send me a recommendation for next year, so I'll be more than happy to sit down and try to come up with a game plan to try to understand both sides of it for us, so that you can understand where we're coming from, and I can understand where you're coming from the citizens, so.
Okay. Thank you.
State lawmakers, they did end fireworks.
That's not gonna happen. You guys,
Too much money.
complain about it, it's not gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. They're never gonna get rid of it.
Fire department, anything else?
When Randy's governor, he's done.
Anything else, Fire Chief Fisher?
Fire Chief Wilkins. Assistant Fire Chief Fisher.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Since we're building a public safety building, we just might as well make a public safety officer.
I noticed in that schematic, you got a corner office.
Yeah, that was built by design, because typically when we build anything new in Cedar Lake, somebody will crash into it.
Oh, okay.
I think he's just saying that because he's getting that corner off.
They start beating the corner off, we turn that charger after that, so.
Makes sense now, Chief, it all comes together.
We'll get it out of our system, get it rebuilt, and later. A couple things, we are also lost another, medic firefighter to South Bend. This firefighter, paramedic, has been with us for a year or two. He's a pretty good loss to our department, but when he did get hired on, he did say that he really wanted to see himself in a bigger city department at some point in time. The money's pretty close to the same, so it wasn't a lead because of money. I asked the Public Safety Board to allow us to do an emergency hire. They approved that last night. We're also hiring for part-time EMTs and paramedics as well. One of the things I want to start doing is we want to start developing our part-time people as well and give them opportunities to go to school and have us help fund it so that we can keep them. The retention of people has been brutal, just like Chief Fisher said. Since yesterday, I've got 2 interests, that's it, just 2 paramedic firefighters. So it's rough all over, and I don't know when it's going to ever get any better, but we have to start developing.
I told my son the other day, for an 18-year-old kid, this is the best time that I can remember to be a young person in this country, because the opportunities you have to choose your path are endless.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for somebody, everybody.
Right now, if an 18-year-old joins the volunteer fire department, goes through the academy, which is funded basically by fireworks permits, guys, just to let you know. State of Indiana, the money the state of Indiana gets goes back to the fire academy.
So you're in favor of fireworks?
No.
Oh.
I didn't know favor for legal fireworks. Oh, okay. And legal shows. Anyways, at the end of the day, it actually does fund the academy, which does help law enforcement as well. It also helps schools. Schools can now apply for some of that money as well to help them from different criteria. So we're going to be doing a hiring process as well. We currently have another medic firefighter who's been on sick leave for 10 weeks now. It's killing us in the overtime, so we're going to be discussing a plan that we're putting together to help get us some coverage. I'll be meeting with Chris probably later this week to discuss that. This is something we came up today with a couple of my supervisors. We all kind of our heads together to come up with a plan for long-term stuff. So other than that, I know this is going to be hard to believe coming out of my mouth, but I'm happy and content. That's the end of my report.
Tell the time, date.
6 minutes, please.
We have a satisfied fire chief for 1 minute.
Well, our attorney says, how long will this last? So the next time he takes me back.
This is the first time since the department was merged into the town in 2013 that we've experienced this bliss. So, thank you, Chief, for sharing.
You're welcome. We had to have fun, and what the heck
We didn't get chief maps tonight, except we did.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Disguised.
I work in mysterious ways.
Well, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Both chiefs. Meredith's report.
So the Veritas report we got verbally today, they presented 2 of their major projects. The rest of them have either been completed or have no update.
Thank you.
Written communication, building departments.
So the summation of the written communication from the building department was, in total so far as of the end of June, we have had 186 new construction permits totaling $48.5 million in value. So we're still going good.
And that's 186 total new construction permits for the year, which is actually 14 shy of what we based our financial plan on for the entire year.
Yep.
So we're about ready to eclipse what we had projected as revenues from building permits already.
I think we'll make that number.
I think so.
Probably already have.
We may have well already.
The Christopher Burke report.
The big things to note on there would be the road construction projects and the state they're in, which you could also visually see by driving past them.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then the timeline of projects that are on a nice little graph for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and just a note in that, also Town Street Committee, shades east of Moore Street and north of 141st Avenue. Christopher Burke was directed to finalize design of the subdivision roadway and stormwater improvements. Again, this is one of these long overdue surface to the moon type roads. And then 131st Place in Moore Street was also Christopher Burke directed to obtain survey costs. So
I directed Christopher Burke, as we're going through the budget process, just trying to kind of figure out that we're going to try to match as best as possible, if not completely, that $1 million to the state, so we can bring $1 million back and maximize the dollars that our citizens are paying in taxes. I just want to be able to have estimates ready for shovel-ready projects, and there's obviously no shortage of roads that we can pay.
But you got that. That's true.
As these particular areas were on a priority area list or mapping that the town created or at least updated back in 2020 or 2021, I believe it was 2021.
And then you also brought to my attention that the road going up by Rosati, the 31st Place.
Yeah, that's my.
And that Barry Warnoff, the former chief of police, is on my back over the extension that goes up by Edison. And I got some pictures where the road gets flooded really bad. So the street committee really needs to look at that. And I don't know if, Tim, you can maybe do something up there?
Any solution over there is going to have to come at the back of a total reconstruction for those roads. And again, he's in good company. There's easily $10 million of road paving projects, almost total reconstruction. 40% of the town
more than that.
rated poorly, so it's
more than that.
We just got to take bites at a time and do it right.
We spent a lot of money
thank you.
in the last 12, 14 years.
Public comment.
Rachel Dixon, 8711 West 132nd Place. you referred to it, alphabet soup, the BOT, so am I to understand that Barnes and Thornburg will establish a bond for this building, and then we'll have it paid off like, and I'm not quoting you, just 20 or 30 years?
It'll be a lot shorter than that.
Shorter than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say it's going to be a 7.
I believe it's contemplated in that range.
7,
But I would
9.
certainly suggest nothing more than 20.
I thought that was going to be a pretty short issue, if I remember right.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to clarify.
So we'll definitely have more details on that when the bond documents are prepared. Any other public comment?
Matt Sella, 9430 West 133rd. I know you get to hear from our chiefs quite often, but you don't always get to hear from us. On behalf of all the brothers and sisters in the fire department, I'd like to say thank you for all the hard work that the council's done on the engine project, Chris and Mr. Austin for that project. And getting to see how the new building is coming along is very exciting. So getting to see that, I'd like to thank you guys for all your hard work on that too, Chief Wilkin and Chief Fisher. I've never seen my chief content. I'm a little scared, so I don't know what to do.
Well, go home and celebrate tonight. We're all going to celebrate.
Can I leave? Are you telling me I can go home? I'm used to it. Thank you.
Unless you're on call, of course. If you're on duty, then now you got to stay.
I can never get out of here.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Jen, anything online?
No one online.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all for your patience this evening and bearing with us through a very substantial meeting. Thanks to contributions by everyone to make this a very important meeting in the history of our community. So thanks to everyone. Our next town council public meeting will be Tuesday, August 2nd at 7 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.